Like It Created, and today we're going to be talking about microglaze or distressed glaze. I don't own either one, but I did find a recipe for a similar product. So that's what we're going to be working with today. I'm going to create a background. We're going to stencil on the DIY glaze and see how well it works. So to get started, I'm using Distressed Oxides for my background, and this will be a great test because Distressed Oxides reactivate with water. So if we create our background image with Distressed Oxides and then go in to see how or if they'll still move is basically what we're going to attempt to do today. So I have stamped them down. I'm going to spritz with water and go in and pick up for my background, and let's see how we're doing. Okay, we just want to create a very colorful background, which is what we're getting here. And then of course we're going to have to go in and dry this before we move on. All right, and I think get that little white spot picked up there. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. I'll clean this up, and then we'll come back and make the Distressed Glaze. All right, so I have dried my paper and stuck it down with some washi tape on my glass mat, and I've placed a stencil over it. And now we're going to do our micro glaze. And I am using this hair food, very similar to a petroleum jelly, and that's what the recipe called for, was some petroleum jelly. So I'm going to put some out on my glass mat here. Has a really nice smell to it. And then it says to mix it with rubbing alcohol. So I have 98%. And it just says a few drops. So I've done like, what, three squirts there. And then we're supposed to mix this together. And we can see it starting to break down and get a little bit more liquid-like. So what's going to happen here is the wax in the petroleum jelly base is going to be the resist, and the rubbing alcohol is the drying factor. So hopefully this makes sense and it will work. All right, so it's fighting me on the glass mat here, and that's okay. But I've got enough there, and I'm going to flatten it out a little bit here. And I'm going to put it on a cosmetic sponge. And you could blend it in with a brush. I am going to hold my stencil down and kind of tap it in place. Now this has a slight yellow color to it, so I may be able to see where it is. I don't want to swipe too much because I don't want to get it, under the stencil. So more of a tapping motion here. And hoping that the wax or petroleum jelly content soaks into the paper is what I assume is going to happen. It might even enhance the color a little bit because it's adding a wax layer over the top. Okay, now I don't know, since this is a trial and error, I don't know if we have too much or not enough. And because it doesn't have a very vivid color, I'm not quite sure about the amount of coverage either. So I'm just going to take a dirty, dry baby wipe over the top here and pick up anything that's kind of excess before I lift our stencil. All right, I do see a difference there. It's subtle, but I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to try to dry this again, and then we'll go over it with an ink to see what happens. All right, so as I heated it, it did get very waxy, so I put a tissue over the top and tried to pick up the liquid, but I still see the design there. So my ink pad is kind of blending out on me, or dripping out. So I'm going to just try it on my glass mat first, get it mixed into the brush, and then let's go over this and see if it goes into any of these areas. All right, well, so what I am seeing here, let me bring it up to you, is that I think it will work. But we want to be on a pretty absorbent paper. And I am starting to see the areas that we didn't have the, what are we calling this? Waxy coating. So I am seeing the pattern of the stencil a little bit. But I think that when I heated it, here you can see that it started to absorb into the paper. And so I like the look of what we have here. It is subtle, and I'm only seeing a little bit, but this is making me think, what if we did the same thing again on watercolor paper or a more absorbent paper, and would we get a different look? So let's give that a try. All right, I've done the same technique. I have my watercolor paper down. I have my stencil. I have mixed up my petroleum jelly with rubbing alcohol. I used quite a bit more rubbing alcohol this time. However, I don't know that it's going to have much difference. I am putting it on my sponge, and I am going to now apply it. And this time I am not going to heat it. I think heating it made it run, and so I don't want to contaminate the non-covered areas. I also don't know if using a blending brush would give us a more saturated application. I am trying to push down into the paper, but I really don't want to buff it or have it go underneath the stencil. So it's all experimentation, and I think I have a thread in there. Might actually act as a resist. I don't know if I can get it out. Okay. All right, now I'm going to take the dry part of the cosmetic sponge and just kind of tap it. Maybe that will remove some of the excess liquid moisture. I don't know. It's really just experimenting here to see what we can make. All right, lifting up the stencil. And once again, I can definitely see the pattern. But now to tell what happens when we go in with our ink. Will it stick in those areas? I definitely see it sitting on top. Okay, and some areas going in better. I guess if I like tap instead of swirl, because I can see it here down in this area where I just tapped on top. But when I started to swirl, I think I am probably swirling that wax around. And so now the test will be to see if we take a paper towel over the dry paper towel over the top and rub it, what comes off. And it is the ink that was sitting on top of the wax, but it's definitely going into that area there. All right, so, and I didn't rub this one, so let's do that as well. All right, so the outcome here and what I'm seeing, its possibility to work as a resist. Is it the greatest resist? No. I have other liquid resists that I have made using polyacrylic. And so that might be something to try next, is will the polyacrylic do a better resist than this wax distressed dupe? So we can give that a try. All right, so once again, I have set up the same way. I've got the watercolor paper, I've got the stencil on top. It does still have some of the faux or resist that we made on there. Now, this is my homemade resist spray, and instead of spraying it, I am going to tap it on with a tissue, and hopefully that will get enough liquid into those areas. And I can see that I am getting liquid on there because there is color coming up on my tissue. So now the question will be, is this enough to resist? And this can definitely be sprayed, or excuse me, heated to get it to dry on there. So, all right, so a little bit more touch and go. Hopefully I am getting some into the paper. Only one way to find out. So let's close that bottle up. Let's lift this up and see. I think we did. I see some of the pattern here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and heat this before we blend on top. All right, so ready to blend again. So far, I'm seeing more. Much more of that pattern. Sure. So that has given us the best looking results so far. And now if I take my dry paper towel, get to a semi-clear spot, and wipe over the top, that has given us the best looking results so far. I really like how that is working now. The question is, if we spray this with water, what happens? And it is reacting with the purple, but none of the base color. I'm not picking up any of the base color, just just the purple. So if you want a lighter application, that is definitely one way to go about getting it. I will link down below to the tutorial for the Distressed or the Resist spray. It is not like the wax. It is a very different product, but it is giving me the result that I wanted. And now I'm going to take this and make a tag. So I went ahead and cut my tag down, pulled out some ephemera, some little glitzy bits, and some glitter glue, and we're going to finish off this tag. But to start off, I'm going to take this cute little girl here, and I am just going to swipe some pink glitter glue on her and set her off to the side. So hopefully I can get this open. Let's see. I'll take my scissors here, see if I can get underneath that. There we go. I just needed a little help popping that open. And so you can see just one little drop on her. I'm going to use my finger, and I am just going to spread that glitter all over her and then set her off to dry. And that is going to be really, really subtle. There's not a whole lot there. Picking some of this up and putting a little bit more on her because there really isn't a whole lot. But just a little bit of sparkle on her. And I think that will really add to the look of what we're doing. All right, so clean up the glue. And then the other thing I want to show you is that I cut off some ribbon to put on, but then I also cut off a strip from a baby wipe that had dried. So this is used baby wipe, and it has dried with ink on it. And so I cut off the edge. Here's the other half of it. And if you pull on it, it's going to stretch out a little bit for you and become more ribbon-like. That's what I'm going to call it anyway. And you can use that in your crafting. And so that's what I've done here with this piece. And I'm going to put it together with this glitzy ribbon. It does still have, its fiber content, which means it does like to stick to things. So take that into consideration. I have a little rough spot on my finger, and it wants to stick to that. Now I want to get all those ends through that loop. Such a simple little task, and it's giving me a hard time here. All right, I'm just going to cut these down at an angle. Maybe make this one a little bit shorter. All right, so there's that. We can go ahead and put our word on. Now it has a little bit of tape on it already because that's how I hold it in my ephemera book, is I put a little bit of tape on the back, but I'm just going to reinforce it with some glue and tuck that tape in and stick that right down here in the corner. And then let's see how our girl's doing. She's a little damp. I think I'm going to hit her with a heat tool and then come right. All right, that didn't take much to get her dry. And I want to boost her up with foam tape. So I am just going to add some on the back here. Don't need a lot. Not sure what I caught on to there. I think I've got invisible thread somewhere here. Not. Okay, I think I got it. I can do some little teeny pieces on her feet. Since I'm cutting little pieces, I may as well get this little piece there as well. Use the rest of this there. Take the pin from my glue and go in and lift up all the backers. Okay. There. And then we just need to go in and add some little bling dots here and there. Okay. Let's see how that goes. I can already see this one is starting to lift up the ink color. So let's go in there with a medium-sized dot. All right. I think it's time to wash my little pickup tool here. It's fighting me a little bit. One more. Let's go with a big one, I guess. Or medium. Guess the big one didn't want to come over. Oh, and that one just flipped over. Goodness. Let's see if we can get that to sit in there. Okay. So now we just need to let that glue dry and we will be good to go.